In today's video, we're going to be going through and discussing all three of Umbacano's quests in order of the Collector, Nothing You Can Possess, and finally, Secrets of the Ayleids. To begin the quest, the Collector, we must enter inside of an Ayleid ruin and recover an Ayleid statue. The tricky part here is that not just any Ayleid ruin has these statues. There are only 10 ruins that have them, and each ruin only contains one statue. What's more, because we haven't heard of them before, we aren't really sure what they look like or what their purpose is. They aren't particularly the easiest object to spot if you're not keeping an eye out for them, and most of the time, they blend in well with the scenery of the Ayleid ruins. The first Ayleid ruin we decided to check out is called Claude. Claude is located southeast of the Imperial City, within eyeshot of the bridge that passes over the Upper Nibbin. Like mentioned before, this is pretty much a hidden quest, and we would likely only find ourselves in here for the purpose of adventure and plunder. Claude is a great place to find our first Ayleid statue, as it only contains one zone. This zone only contains 6 zombie undead enemies and is comprised of a few small rooms and one big room. As for the zombies, they only appear when we enter into the small room that contains the Ayleid statue, so the journey through this ruin is rather short. Arriving in the room, we notice that in the middle, there's a unique looking object. It sort of has the shape of a fancy hourglass, but the details of it are more ancient and mystical. In the center of it appears to be a gem, similar in nature to the appearance of Welkin and Varla stones in which we see throughout other Ayleid ruins. When first stumbling upon it, if we happen to notice it, we can approach it and see that it can be picked up, has a weight, and can be sold for gold. We put it into our inventory and mind it no business, as like mentioned before, it serves no purpose other than to be sold. This is why Claude is a great first spot to find an Ayleid statue, as the whole dungeon is practically designed around discovering it. Exiting the room, the undead have now spawned in. They will be 6-leveled zombies, and lucky for us, this character is extremely proficient in destruction magic, and zombies happen to have a weakness to fire. We use a few fire explosion spells that blast an entire radius into Inferno. With this spell, we don't even have to be accurate in order to inflict mass amount of damage onto the zombies. Within seconds, each zombie would get laid back to rest. Eventually, our exploration through Claude comes to an end, and we ascend back up to the surface of Cyrodiil. Now, if you're like me, I have a bad habit of waiting until my weight limit is almost maxed out before going to see a merchant. Moreover, I for some reason always neglect the miscellaneous tab, as I find the enchanted armor and weapons I pick up sell for more gold and drop the pounds down fairly substantially. So that's all to say, a player like myself might take a little bit to actually go and sell this statue off. But we do find ourselves traveling back to the Imperial City Market District. Here, we decide to stop by our old pal and criminal's accomplice, Thorinir, and unload our inventory a bit. Selling the statue, we notice that it is one of the only things that can't be bought back, which is rather strange, seeing as how pretty much everything can be bought back. Well, its only purpose for us was to be sold, so no point in looking back. We leave the copious coin purse, and in this instance, we force a wait. Instantly, our timer jumps down to 0, we're then approached by a stranger.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jolring. I come on behalf of my master, Umbacano. He asked me to deliver this note. I believe it is an invitation to visit him at his manor in the Imperial City. My master is a collector of Ayleid antiquities. It has come to his attention that you recently sold an item that interests him. I believe the note will give you all the details. My master, Umbacano, lives in the Talos Plaza district of the Imperial City. He is known across Cyrodiil as a collector of Ayleid antiquities.
Interested, we open up our inventory and find Umbacano's invitation to read. It says, "As my servant no doubt has already explained, I am an avid collector of Ayleid antiquities. As such, your recent sale of a rare Ayleid statue piqued my interest. I am most eager to acquire more of these statues for my collection and will be happy to remunerate you handsomely for your efforts. I would be pleased to welcome you to my home in the Imperial City in order to discuss this matter in more detail at your earliest convenience. I remain most sincerely, Umbacano. Umbacano Manor, Talos Plaza District, Imperial City." Now, Jolring would have made his way to us even if we didn't wait. However, this was the fastest and most direct method to his introduction. He would have found us even if we sold the item to an obscure merchant in a lowly tavern. Alternatively, we could have made our way straight to Umbacano's manor in the Talos Plaza district and sought out Jolring first before selling the statue in order to fast-track the whole process. Fast traveling over to the Talos Plaza district, we walk over to the Umbacano manor and enter inside. Jolring is very quick to approach us.
Welcome. My master instructed me to show you up immediately. Please follow me.
We follow Jolring up the stairs. Peering back over our shoulder, it seems this mysterious Umbacano has an Argonian bodyguard in his company as well. We continue our ascension and enter into the private quarters. We see an upper-class, middle-aged high elf sitting and reading. We're beckoned over to have a seat. We take him up on his offer and begin speaking with him.
Thank you for coming. You may recognize that statue over there on the table. The very one that you recently sold for less than its true worth. As you may know, I am somewhat of an enthusiast for Ayleid antiquities. In my own modest way, I have amassed a rather considerable collection. I have recently become interested in obtaining the complete set of these ancient statues. I believe that 10 still exist. No mere shopkeeper knows their true worth. If you bring them to me when you find them, I will pay you double for each one. I am looking for the complete set of 10 for my collection. They were once part of the Temple of the Ancestors in the ancient Ayleid capital. Through my research, I have learned that they were removed from the temple before its sack by men. I believe they were hidden in various Ayleid settlements across Cyrodiil, although I do not know the exact location of any of them. Why, have you already found another statue for me? Well then, you have work to do. I will continue to search the archives for any clues to the statue's locations. You know it as White Gold Tower, the center of the ancient Ayleid capital of Nibene. It was brutally sacked thousands of years ago by humans led by Alessia. The Imperial City is built over the ruins of that ancient city.
So, as Umbacano stated, there are 10 Ayleid statues in total. That means there are 9 other statues out there that he would like us to retrieve. However, we're given no hints nor any instructions on which ruins might contain them. There are over 50 Ayleid ruins across Cyrodiil, and a lot of them are massive dungeons that would take a while to explore. Without the knowledge of where to go, this quest could take a very long time to complete. Or, similar to the quest Seeking Your Roots, this would simply be a background quest that gets done whenever it gets done. Lucky for us, we have the locations of the other 9 Ayleid sites that contain the Ayleid statues. The second statue can be retrieved from a ruin called Fanakuz. Fanakuz is located north of Shadenhall and south-southeast of Lord Rugdump's estate. Similar to Questline, Fanakuz only contains one zone, so finding the statue isn't that complicated. However, it does involve us maneuvering through tight passageways, traps, and water-filled rooms. The main enemies we face in here are vampires. We will encounter 1 boss-level vampire, 1 vampire beast, and 4 regular vampires. Once we've made our way through this dungeon, we will find the Ayleid statue propped up on a column on the far right of the local map. Once recovered, we can leave the Ayleid ruin and return back to the Talos Plaza district. Entering back inside the Umbacano manor, Jolrig approaches us once more.
I used to think you were a hero. A holy night and all that. I guess I... Shall I show you up? Very good. Please follow me.
We follow Jolrig back up into Umbacano's private quarters. We see the High Elf reading in his chair still, and we begin to speak to him about the recovered statue.
Ah, yes. My treasure-hunting friend. What can I do for you? Yes. Have you found another statue for me? Ah, a second ancestor. Excellent. I had wondered whether the first was just luck, but I see now that you have some skill at this work. By good fortune, my research has uncovered some new information that may help you in your search for the remaining statues. I have found the names of a number of Ayleids cities where the statues may have been taken for safekeeping during the siege of White Gold Tower. The only modern sites that still bear their ancient names are Moranda, Macamentain, Wenyanduik, Ninendiva, and Fanakas. There is no guarantee that my sources are correct, of course, but these should at least provide a starting point for your search.
Umbacano was able to give us 5 locations of where the Ayleid statues are suspected to be. Unfortunately, one of them, Fanakas, was already explored and plundered, so we just have the other 4 to work off of. But, with some leads and hints as to where to go, this quest can now be put on the front line. We head to the alien ruin of Macamentain for our 3rd Ayleid statue. Macamentain is located northeast of Breville, north of Sage Glen Hollow, and west-southwest of Deserted Mine. This dungeon, contrary to the previous 2, has 3 zones to it. The first zone contains 2 to 6 necromancers and is comprised of 3 rooms, 1 small, 1 medium, and 1 large. The second zone, called Tombs of the Undead, contains 0 to 6 necromancers and comprises of a lot of small rooms and large pathways, with only 1 large room this time. The final zone, Necromancer's Asylum, contains 1 boss-level necromancer and 2 zombies, one of them being the highest possible level for your character. The zone comprises of 1 really big room and 1 medium-sized room. The 3rd statue is located in the middle of the bigger room on an altar. Once we have it, we can take the doorway at the end of the room and we find ourselves back in Zone 1, where we can exit the ruin back out into Cyrodiil. We can now fast travel once more back to the Talos Plaza district and to Umbacano's manor.
Good to see you again, sir. Shall I escort you upstairs to see my master? Very good. Please follow me.
We're once again escorted back up and we speak with Umbacano.
Ah, yes. My treasure-hunting friend. What can I do for you? Yes. Have you found another statue for me? Beautiful. Exquisite. You have proven yourself to be quite resourceful. I have another task which should interest someone of your particular talents.
We're now ready to move on to the next quest for Umbacano's storyline, but we haven't yet completed the quest, The Collector, so we're going to go ahead and quickly go over and retrieve the other 7 Ayleid statues from their respective Ayleid ruins. The 4th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Moranda. Moranda is located between Bruma and Coral near Underpal Cave and east-southeast of Sankar Tor. It has 3 zones and we will fight anywhere between 16 to 27 monster enemies. The statue can be found in an alcove in the middle room of the 3rd zone. The 5th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Ninendava. Ninendava is located northeast of Coral, just slightly east-northeast of Sankar Tor, and northwest of Miranda. It contains only 1 zone, so I would recommend it as one of the 3 search spots required for the Collector. We will fight between 5 to 8 vampires and 2 to 5 zombies in this dungeon. The statue can be acquired after retrieving a key that unlocks the gate to get to it. The 6th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Vilverin. Vilverin is located northeast of the Imperial City and right beside the sewers we emerge from in the beginning of the game. Vilverin contains 4 zones, and we will fight anywhere from 28 to 35 enemies, which are a mix of bandits and the undead. The statue can be found in Zone 4 on a pillar at a 4-way intersection. The 7th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Welki. Welki is located east of Breville, near the Panther River, and right beside the writing of the Nibene Valley on the map. It contains 3 zones, and we will fight anywhere from 21 to 22 undead enemies. The statue can be found in the 3rd zone on one of the sarcophagi. The 8th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Wendelbeck. Wendelbeck is located east of Breville and northeast of Welki, just across the Panther River. It contains 4 zones, and we will fight 14 necromancer and undead enemies. The statue can be found in the 3rd zone off of a raised corridor close to the entrance on the left. The 9th statue that we find is located in the ruin called Wendir. Wendir is located between Coral and Skingrad, just northwest of Hackdirt and west of Fort Carmala. It contains 2 zones, and we will face a total of 19 undead enemies. The statue can be found in the 2nd zone near the upper left entrance and by activating a button that lowers a gate. The 10th and final statue is located in the ruin called Wenyandawik. Wenyandawik is located northwest of Breville, east of Fort Blackboot, and west-southwest of Robbers Glen Cave. Wenyandawik contains 2 zones, and we will face anywhere from 15 to 18 undead enemies. The statue can be found in the 2nd zone and is easiest to grab entering through the upper doorway. But do be careful, as it is possible to lock yourself out completely from grabbing the statue by leaping off of a certain bridge just outside of the room containing the Ayleid statue. We can now return to the Talos Plaza district and once again enter inside of Umbacano Manor. Jolring shows us up and we go speak to Umbacano. He doesn't offer any unique dialogue up until we have 3 statues left to sell him.
I am impressed. Only 3 more statues to complete the set. Keep up the good work, my friend. Yes, have you found... I had never thought to see 8 of the ancestors together again in my lifetime. Well done. Yes, have you found another statue for me? You are doing very well in your treasure hunt, my friend. Only 1 more statue remains to be discovered. You are very close to earning the reward for completing the set of 10. I urge you to redouble your efforts. Yes, have you found another statue for me? You have exceeded my fondest hopes, my friend. The 10 ancestors are reunited at last. This is truly an historic day. As I promised when we first met, here is your reward for completing the set. Take it with my sincere thanks. It is well deserved. You were more resourceful than I had hoped. I esteem you greatly for your success in bringing the 10 ancestors together again after all these years.
The 10 ancestors are handed over to Umbacano, and our grand reward, on top of the 500 gold per statue, is 5,500 gold for completing the set. Umbacano now walks over to his glass display case and stores all 10 statues in there. Truly a sight to behold. Now it's time to move on to the next quest and inquire about the other task he has for us.
Well met. You have proven yourself more than a simple grave robber. I believe you can handle a more complicated assignment. Are you interested? Excellent. Here, take a look at this sketch. The ancient text referred to this site only as the High Fane. Do you know it? I'm not surprised. I have not been able to find any modern reference to it. Still, the architectural detail is distinctive enough. It may still be recognizable. The High Fane dates from the late Ayleid period, following the fall of White Gold Tower, a very troubled time for that ancient people. A time I find most fascinating. The drawing on the bottom of the page I gave you depicts a carved panel from the central chamber of the High Fane. I believe this carving will shed new light on Ayleid history. If I am able to examine it closely, I would like you to retrieve it for me. You will need this as well. It is the key to the inner chamber of the High Fane. I part with it reluctantly, so guard it well. It is what began my search for the High Fane many years ago. Your first task is to locate the ruins of the High Fane. I believe it must now be known by a different name.
Our next task, also known as the quest Nothing You Can Possess, involves us looking for the Ayleid ruin called the High Fane. Within it, we're to find a carved panel located in the central chamber. The only problem is that neither us nor Umbacano know what the modern-day name is for the High Fane. Stumped, we exit the manor, and this is where a stranger takes us up in conversation.
You must be Umbacano's new plaything. Well met. I am Claude Maric, another pawn in Umbacano's game. I always enjoy meeting my rival treasure hunters. What, did you think you were the only one? Come, let's have a drink together.
The stranger, named Claude Maric, appears to be another treasure hunter in the employ of Umbacano. With no other leads on the High Fane, we decide to follow him into the Tiber Septim Hotel. He has a seat and offers us a drink.
Barkeep, a drink for my friend.
We indulge in Tamika's Westfield wine, have a seat, and speak to Claude.
Now then, I propose a toast. To Umbacano, may his purse never run dry. Our mutual employer rarely tells us the whole story, but he pays very well. Not that I should be giving advice to one of my rivals. You know what? I will help you, although it is liable to get you killed. The High Fane is now known as Malada, up in the Vallis Mountains. But I do not advise you to go there. Read The Cleansing of the Fane first, then decide. As I said, a very bad place. Must I hold your hand? I begin to wonder what Umbacano sees in you. It is an Ayleid ruin in the far west of this province, up in the Vallis Mountains. I don't own it. One of the rare book dealers in the market district may have a copy. Read it. Educate yourself. Think carefully about what I told you, but I'm sure you'll be fine.
Not only does Claude spill the beans on where the High Fane is, now the Ayleid ruin called Malada, he also warns us against going in there. We decide to go to the first edition in the Imperial City Marketplace and buy the book, Cleansing of the Fane, to make an informed decision. The book reads, The Chronicles of the Holy Brothers of Maruk, Volume 4, or The Cleansing of the Fane. Editor's note: this is the only surviving fragment of the chronicle of the First Era sect of the Elysian Order. It seems to have been kept at their great monastic complex at Lake Canalis, which was raised during the War of Righteousness, First Era year 2321, and its archives destroyed or dispersed. Note also that Elysian scribes of this time customarily dated events from the apotheosis of Elysia, First Era year 266. Here is recorded the events of the year 127 of the Blessed Elysia. In this year was the day darkened over all lands, and the sun was all as it were Maser, but 3 days old, and the stars about him at midday. This was on the 5th of Furseed. All who saw it were dismayed, and said that a great event should come hereafter. So it did, for that same year issued forth a great concourse of devils from the ancient elvish temple, Malada. Such had not been seen since the days of King Belharza. These devils greatly afflicted the land such that no man could plow, or reap, or seed, and the people appealed to the brothers of Maruk for succor. And then Abbot Cosmas gathered all the brothers and led them to Malada, also known as the High Fane in the elvish tongue, and came against it with holy fire, and the foul demons were destroyed. and many devilish relics and books found therein were burned, and the land had peace for many years. The book does say that the brothers of Maric destroyed all of the evil from within the High Fane, but that was many years ago, and what takes residence inside of Nenalata now is unknown. Interestingly, if we return to Umbacano now, the only piece of information we get is about Claude Maric.
It's my pleasure. Please continue. I believe a little friendly competition always sharpens the wits. Even more reason for you to get back to hunting for my carving.
Now it's time to head to Nenalata. Nenalata is located far to the east in Cyrodiil and is in its southern areas. It's close in proximity to Ayleids Shrine, and there's actually a pathway from Macamentain leading all the way there. Approaching the ruin, we see a Khajiit scout clad in armor gazing at the ruins. We approach him and begin to speak.
Well, well, if it isn't the Holy Crusader himself. You're probably wondering what this one is doing in this God's forsaken wilderness. Same here. Srazir doesn't get paid nearly enough for this. You are cautious and perceptive. Good traits to have in this business. Yes, you guessed correctly. This one is working for Maric. He never tells us anything, though. Just between the two of us, this one thinks Maric is cheating him. In fact, this one is sure of it. Listen, Srazir has an idea of how we can both come out of this ahead. We wait and see how this plays out. If and when there's an opportunity, Srazir will help you against Maric. If we succeed in recovering the treasure, you give this one half of what you're getting paid. You won't regret it. This one will keep his eyes open and wait for an opportunity to help you. Don't screw this one, though. After the dust settles, look for Srazir in the Tiber Septim Inn in the Imperial City. Full payment is expected.
Srazir casts doubt on Claude Maric's character and is offered a partnership with us instead in exchange for half of the reward. We agree, but we'll see if we keep our end of the bargain. We head down to the ruins and enter inside of the High Fane. Nenalata only has 2 zones, but we only need to explore the first one for this quest. There are a series of pathways and small rooms throughout this area. We really only find animal enemies within this dungeon. It's strange that Claude Maric was so afraid to enter inside of here. Obviously bears and mountain lions are not easy foes, but if he has a crew of treasure hunters, they stand a better chance. Eventually, we work our way up to a room that has a small corridor attached to it. Walking along this hallway, we see a very strange doorway simply called Stone Door. We interact with it, and using Umbacano's High Fane key, the door retracts into the ground. Just on the other side is a tabloid that looks exactly like the sketch Umbacano provided us. It's a blue carved panel and must be what we're looking for. We walk up to it and put it into our inventory. All of a sudden, the wall falls down and nearly kills us. On the other side, a boss level undead is revealed and conjures an undead to fight us. Behind us, 2 false walls retract into the ground and 4 skeletons lunge out of the darkness, attacking us all together. 2 of them are skeleton champions, and they each summoned a skeleton guardian. After defeating the skeletons, we finish off the Lich on the other side of the wall, and now we're free to leave Nenalata. It got a little dicey back there, but that has to be the most of our troubles, right? Exiting the fort, we're confronted by a familiar face.
Well done. You have much to learn about this business, my friend, but you show definite promise. But first, of course, you must hand over the carving. Are you sure? I truly have no wish to harm you. It is the carving I want. Just business. Hand it over, and someday we will both laugh about this over drinks at the Tiber Septim. I will give you one last chance. As you wish. Too bad. I was just getting to like you. Kill him.
Refusing to hand over the panel, Claude Maric calls on his crew to kill us and take the treasure for themselves. We're attacked by 3 people, but one of them is actually fighting off Claude. That's our Khajiit acquaintance, Srazir. We only have to deal with 2 enemies now as opposed to 4, however, the 2 are still strong opponents. One of them, Rigmor, is clad in complete Daedric armor, and the other, Brucetus Festinius, is clad in glass armor and wields a Daedric claymore. We look over, and unfortunately, our companion, Srazir, was killed by Claude Maric. However, with no more allies on the fighting grounds, we can switch over to our overpowered destruction magic and start casting it on the robbers. First, Rigmor goes down, then, after a lengthy back and forth with Brucetus, he too falls in the battle. Now it's time to go in for the leader, Claude Maric. Claude tries to make an escape on his horse, but we cast some spells on him, causing him to fight back. He cries for help that he's being assaulted, but we incinerate and defeat him quickly, ending the employment and life of Umbacano's other treasure hunters. Interestingly, when we loot Rigmor, she has a note on her from Claude. It reads, Rigmor, set up camp out of sight and keep an eye out for strangers. Umbacano thinks to cheat us, as usual, so we'll play it cautiously. Do not enter the ruin until I arrive. We may not need to risk our necks this time. Maric. P.S. Keep an eye on Srazir. He's acting even twitchier than usual. Maybe he finally realized he isn't getting a full cut. But I think he's good for one more job, and he's the best I could come up with on short notice. It turns out that Claude was using us all along, and above all, he was in fact giving Srazir the shorthand like the Khajiit suspected. With all of this out of the way, we can return back to Umbacano. We enter the manor, get escorted into the private quarters, and speak once more with the High Elf.
A pleasure to speak with you. Yes, you learned that it is the ruin now known as Nenalata. Were you able to recover the carving yet? Wonderful! You are indeed a treasure hunter of exceptional talents. Here is your reward as promised. Normally, I would give you a chance to celebrate your success, but I do have another task for you, if you are interested. A rather urgent one. The carving you recovered from Nenalata will be invaluable in my research on the late Ayleid period.
There's now only one more task to do for Umbacano. Interestingly, for this quest, if Claude Maric, Srazir, Rigmor, and Brucetus Festinius sound familiar, that's because they can otherwise be found at the Roxy Inn, northeast of the Imperial City, before this quest has begun. There are actually multiple ways the interaction with them outside of Nenalata could have went down. Firstly, we could have handed over the carving. There would have been no violence, but Claude would be the one to get the reward and the renown from Umbacano. Secondly, we again could have given it over and avoided bloodshed, but stolen it back afterwards in order to hand it over to Umbacano ourselves. Thirdly, we could have killed all 3 of Claude's companions before even entering the ruins. With this way, Claude doesn't even bother showing up. Fourthly, we could cast Frenzy as soon as we step outside and enter back into the ruins for a minute or so. Coming back out, we'll likely see Claude running away if his henchmen attacked him, causing everyone else to be neutral towards us. Fifthly, Claude may accept a yield from us if his disposition is high enough. And lastly, we can avoid everything altogether if we just fast travel immediately after exiting the ruins of Nenalata. Then, with Srazir, if he survived the attack, would be waiting for us at the Tiber Septim Hotel, where we could split the reward with him if we chose to do so. If our speechcraft was also high enough, we could have negotiated him down to splitting a quarter of the reward instead of half. We return once more to receive a task from Umbacano.
It's my pleasure. Please continue. This is not quite in your usual line of work, but I hope you can help me just the same. A rival collector has an item which I very much want to add to my collection, but she stubbornly refuses to consider any of my offers. She and I have had our differences over the years, I admit. Now she is taking this opportunity to get her revenge. I believe that you may be able to persuade her to part with the item, where I cannot due to her prejudice against me. Are you interested? Very good. I hope you will succeed, where I have so far failed. Her name is Herminia Cinna. She lives here in the Imperial City, in the Elven Gardens district. She fancies herself a student of the Ayleids, although she sadly lacks any aesthetic instinct whatsoever. Be that as it may, she has come into possession of an ancient relic known as the Crown of the Ayleids. Your job is to acquire it for me. Here is more than enough gold to buy it at any reasonable price. You may keep whatever you do not use as your fee. Reputedly the crown worn by the last king of the Ayleids. It deserves to be part of my collection. Very little is known of him, not even his name. He ruled the last Ayleid city in Cyrodiil during the First Era, 3 centuries after the fall of White Gold Tower.
We're given a mere sum of 1,000 gold to try and purchase an extremely rare and ancient Ayleid artifact from a citizen of the Imperial City, Herminia Cinna. Herminia can either be found in her home in the Elven Gardens district, wandering about on the Green Emperor Way, or, on Sundus, by the Arbitorium. We find her by the Monument of Tiber Septim, approach, and start our conversation with her.
I used to admire you, but it turns out you're just a sinner like all the rest of us. You want to buy my Ayleid crown? It isn't for sale at any price. I would think Umbacano would know that by now. Save your breath. He's the only one who knows I have it. He's tried to get it from me for years. I will never allow the crown to fall into Umbacano's hands. He is far more dangerous than you realize. Far from it. His interest in the Ayleids is not that of a mere scholar. He hopes to unlock the secrets of their magical power. And if you know anything about Ayleid-ruled Cyrodiil, that should make you very uneasy. I'm afraid I don't know for sure. I wish I had a more persuasive answer, but hear me out. The crown of the Ayleids which Umbacano wants is not simply an ancient work of art. It has certain superficial magic powers, true, but its real power is hidden. However, my studies of the ancient text make clear that it is the key to dangerous magical powers which should be left dormant. Yes, I understand. He wants an Ayleid crown, but does it have to be my Ayleid crown? What if you brought him another crown? My own research into the late Ayleid period suggests that there was not a single Ayleid ruler, but many. They were a bitterly divided people, with many warlords vying against each other for power. Their ultimate demise was wrought by their own civil strife, at least as much as by the rebellion of their human slaves. My crown, the one Umbacano covets, belonged to the ruler of Nenalata. I've learned of another crown, entombed with the last ruler of the rival city of Lindai. Since Umbacano has never laid eyes on the real crown of the Ayleids, I doubt he could tell the difference. In any case, the other is also a real Ayleid crown, just not the right one. I think we could all sleep better if you brought him Lindai's crown instead of the crown of Nenalata. Here, I happen to have the key you'll need to enter the royal burial chamber in Lindai. I hope you'll make the right choice. The Ayleid city of Lindai was a bitter rival to Nenalata, the city of the so-called last king of the Ayleids. Umbacano may not be able to tell the difference between the crown of Lindai and the crown of Nenalata. It's at least worth a try. I know I don't want to find out what terrible power Umbacano could unleash using the crown of Nenalata. The king of Nenalata is the last Ayleid king known to history, true. He appears to have ruled for centuries past the fall of all the other Ayleid kingdoms, if the ancient chronicles are to be believed. But there never was a single king of the Ayleids. Each city-state had its king, and their power waxed and waned over the years. The king of Nenalata was the last, simply because all the other kings had been destroyed or driven out of Cyrodiil. I hope you'll make the right choice. Umbacano must not have the crown of Nenalata.
Herminia has tried to convince us to replace the crown of Nenalata with the crown of Lindai, a rival Ayleid kingdom. She has given us a key to enter the royal chamber from within Lindai. We're now faced with a choice, and whichever one we choose will affect the outcome of this quest. But spoiler, not by that much. I really wanted to see what would happen with Umbacano if we were to give him the proper Ayleid crown. So, we fast traveled over to Herminia's house in the Elven Gardens district and broke in while no one was watching. Once inside, we headed upstairs and picked the lock into her room. Around the corner of the chamber, she has an Ayleid cask that's secured with a hard lock. We picked that one too, and inside, we found the crown of Nenalata. We quickly fled her house and traveled back over to Umbacano's manor one last time to share with him the great news.
I used to think you were a hero, a holy knight and all that. I guess I should have known better. Have you brought me the crown of the Ayleids? Ah, magnificent! This is my greatest prize yet. To think that I hold the very crown that once graced the brow of the last Ayleid king. Even to gaze upon it would have been death to any one of the lesser races in the old days. I thank you again for your efforts. I have one final task for you, if you are still willing to face danger on my behalf. In order to bring my research on the last king of the Ayleids to its final stage, I need to go to the throne room of Nenalata. While I am not without means of defending myself, I believe you would be an invaluable companion on such an expedition. Your reward will be whatever plunder you wish to carry off from Nenalata. Since the throne room has been sealed since the time of the Ayleids, it should provide rich pickings. Very well. 3 days, then. Don't be late. Remember, I will be expecting you at Nenalata in 3 days' time.
Umbacano will show up to Nenalata in 3 days' time. That gives us 72 in-game hours to prepare for a pretty tough dungeon crawl. Now is when I would recommend to repair your armor, charge your weapons, stock up on potions, and finally, recruit any followers if you have them. We make our way over to Nenalata early to check out the spot. Nenalata is located right across from Cadloot Chapel on Silverfish River and directly east of Fort Grief on the Niben Bay. The outside is quite quaint and not as grand as other Ayleid ruins. So, an important thing to discuss is that when he arrives and it's time to enter into the ruin, Umbacano can actually die if he loses all of his health in there. If that were to happen, we would never get to see the true end of this quest. In order to prevent this from happening, I would recommend going in ahead of time and clearing out as many enemies as you possibly can. It will be a harder fight as Umbacano would otherwise help us with these battles, but at the risk of him dying. There are 3 zones to this dungeon. The first contains 8 undead, the second zone contains 4 skeletons and 3 undead, and the last contains 3 more undead. You can either choose to clear out the enemies while Umbacano is on his way over during the 3-day grace period, or, while we're escorting him, we can tell him to wait safely in one of the rooms while we deal with the enemies. By day 3, Umbacano has finally arrived, and he's all alone.
Here you are at last. I know exactly where the throne room lies. Your job is simply to get me there safely. Lead the way.
We can now escort Umbacano through the 3 zones of Nenalata. Because we officially cleared out the entire dungeon, maneuvering and finding our way around is a breeze. Interestingly, if we had spared the life of Claude Maric, he would actually be accompanying us and Umbacano right now. He tries to make amends by saying that he harbors no ill will against us and that the incident was only business. After escorting Umbacano through the first 2 zones, we arrive at the end of the third, and when we take him down some stairs, we see a rectangular shape carved out of the wall where the High Fanes panel can likely be placed. Doing so triggers these events.
This is it, just as Sorkelin described it. Follow me. Av Ariel, ye Tamriel, Delavoy an Arpen Arantanabai. Here it is, the throne of the last king of the Ayleids, and so it falls to me to begin the restoration of our ancient glory. Av Suna Tamriel, Octavoy an Apen Aran Malaboro. Arise, my people! The restoration of Tamriel begins today!
It seems like Herminia Cinna was right and that Umbacano in fact had malicious intent. He has become an entity known as the King of Nenalata, and with that, he was able to release 6 powerful and evil spirits into the room with us. We face down liches and wraiths while our quest updates and says it's best to flee the ruins at once. Interestingly, Umbacano let off only 1 attack on us before the spirits started to turn on him and began draining his health. We didn't even need to touch him for him to die, as in no time, the undead killed him off. Now we're left alone to fend off 6 powerful beings. Honestly, this fight is going to be really difficult. Even if you have a follower and Claude Maric, your best bet would be to loot Umbacano's body and run out of the room as soon as possible. If 6 strong undead enemies wasn't enough, wait until the liches spawn in skeletons and it quickly becomes a fight against 9. Through an unrelenting amount of destruction magic and hopping around the throne room, the enemies are defeated. We can now grab Umbacano's house keys, the crown of Nenalata, as well as the staff of Nenalata from the king. The staff is a leveled weapon, and if you're level 25 plus, it has the enchantments of Drain Willpower for 10 points and Dispel for 50 points. We make our way through one of these secret passageways and up some stairs. Here, there's a doorway which leads to the first zone and happens to bring us right to the exit of the dungeon. Exiting the fort officially concludes the quest, Secrets of the Ayleids, and therefore ends the Umbacano questline. So, what would have happened if we instead chose to go with the Crown of Lindai route? We would have traveled to the ruins of Lindai, which are located east of Coral. Here, there are 2 zones. The first contains 3 skeletons, 4 zombies, and 4 undead. The second contains 3 skeletons and 1 boss level undead. The only way to get into Zone 2, the Lindai Inner Tombs, is by using the key given to us by Herminia. The back of the room contains an Ayleid cask which holds the crown of Lindai. From here, the same sequence of events would have happened where we would present the crown to Umbacano and he would proudly accept as he didn't know the difference between the 2. In 3 days' time, we would have met with him at Nenalata and escorted him through its 3 zones all the way to the throne room. Here, he would put the false crown on, sit on the throne, do his chants, and instead of turning into a king, the dark welkin stones that line the room unleash their power upon him, killing him instantly. The spirits still get released and Umbacano still ends up dying, hence why I mentioned our choice doesn't impact the end result of this quest too greatly. So the real main difference is whether or not we wanted to put in the extra work for another Ayleid crown. As mentioned prior, Umbacano can die on his way through the ruins, so it is highly recommended that you clear out the enemies ahead of time. If you were curious on the translation for the incantation chanted by Umbacano to enter the throne room and while sitting on the throne, it roughly means, by Oriel and Tamriel, grant the noble king passage, as well as, by blessed Tamriel, acknowledge the noble king in your loving vassalage. As for loose ends for this quest, if Claude Maric survived, he would have made his way all the way back to Roxy Inn to spend the rest of his days. Herminia Cinna in the Imperial City makes absolutely no mention or remark for Umbacano or the crowns after all is said and done. Returning back to Umbacano Manor, Jolrig and the bodyguard, Ushija, offer some unique dialogue.
What can I do for you? My master has not returned from his expedition to Nenalata. I fear the worst, but Umbacano Manor remains in my charge, and I will keep it in readiness for his return.
What? You know, I haven't seen him around for a while, but I'm still getting paid, so what do I care?
An interesting little tidbit is that apparently Umbacano wasn't always the rich upperclassman that he portrayed to be. He was apparently once a commoner who had taken up temporary residence in Yasu Mine in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. He also made mention to someone named Sorkelin while in Nenalata, and that same Sorkelin is also in Yasu Mine in Morrowind. I thoroughly enjoyed Umbacano's questline. I actually had never fully completed it before, as I never bothered to look for 3 Ayleid statues. However, I'm really glad I finally got to experience this quest and talk about it with you all. The collector was fantastic, and I really liked how we didn't need to find all 10 statues before starting Nothing You Can Possess. Nothing You Can Possess was also a decent quest, as even though it was still a dungeon crawl, we didn't need to venture too far into the ruins to get what we needed, and we did see some unique assets like the stone door and the High Fane's carving. Finally, Secrets of the Ayleids provided us with a choice, which I always love in this game. Although that choice doesn't impact the outcome of the quest too greatly, it still was nice to see. Herminia was right about Umbacano and that he wasn't to be trusted. Maybe next time we'll think harder on if we should do quests for people just because they're offering us money, but we probably still will. Until next time, keep on adventuring.